Early Monday morning, Mrs. Wallace stood in front of her second grade class and reached into the hat that was sitting on her desk. She pulled out a piece of paper and held it high. She said, "In my hand is the name of a lucky second grader. This child will get to make up a Christmas story and tell it to the Christmas assembly this Friday."
"Choose me,"
bellowed Big Eddie, the boy whose dad owned the toy store.
"Choose me,"
commented Cool Katie, the coolest girl in class.
"Boogleberry cheek,"
replied Redheaded Robbie, Mrs. Wallace's friend. Robbie could feel his face turning red, and he dropped his head to his desk. He had done it again. Robbie meant to say, "Don't choose me," but instead,
"Boogleberry cheek"
came out. Redheaded Robbie spoke perfectly fine when talking to his parents or his friends, but whenever Robbie felt nervous or excited or upset, the first words that jumped from his lips usually made no sense. Robbie's garbled words were funny, but his classmates never laughed. They liked Robbie. He shared his lunch treats. He didn't hog the swing. In fact, when Robbie misspoke, the kids usually covered up for him. Big Eddie said,
"Redhead Robbie didn't mean that, Mrs. Wallace. He's just nervous."
Mrs. Wallace read from the slip of paper.
The winner is Robbie."
"Oh, no," said Big Eddie.
"Upper fro,"
said Redheaded Robbie. That night, Robbie felt sick to his stomach. How could he make up a story and tell it to the Christmas assembly without saying something silly? Robbie wrote a fairy tale about a snowflake that landed on a fruitcake and thought it was a raisin. The story was lame, and Robbie knew it. The next day, Robbie visited Big Eddie at his father's toy store. Robbie found him spinning around in his father's desk chair.
"How's the story going, Redhead Robbie?"
"I need help," said Robbie. Eddie said,
"Make up a story about a boy who gets so many presents it takes him 2 days to open them all."
"But Christmas isn't about getting presents. It's a time we give gifts to people who have less than us."
Eddie stopped spinning in the chair.
"I never thought about Christmas that way. Sorry I didn't help with your story."
After school, Robbie visited Cool Katie.
"How's the story going, Redhead Robbie?"
"I need help."
"Make up a story about a cool girl throwing a cool Christmas party."
"But Christmas isn't a time for being cool. It's a time for being nice to someone new, maybe someone who is shy."
Katie put down the phone.
"I never thought about Christmas that way. Sorry I didn't help."
The next morning, the students and parents gathered in the auditorium for the Christmas assembly. The 5th grade performed a Christmas play they had written. Only a few times did their wigs fall off their heads. A 4th grader played a Christmas song he had composed on the guitar. Only a few times did he drop his guitar. A 3rd grader danced a Christmas dance she had choreographed. Only a few times did she tumble to the floor. When the time came for the 2nd grade performance, Mrs. Wallace said,
"Robbie will now tell us his Christmas story."
Robbie stood before the assembly. In his hand was the story he had written about the snowflake that thought it was a raisin. His stomach felt like it was filled with hot candle wax. Robbie took a deep breath and started to tell his tale.
"Wubby whizzin',"
he said. Robbie's face flushed burning red. A couple of 1st graders giggled. Robbie tried again to talk.
"Gleeping, glooping, gloop,"
he said. A couple of 5th graders whispered to each other. Again, Robbie tried to speak.
"Shamana, Minna, flake it.
He said. A couple of fourth graders pointed at Robbie. His story was a disaster. Robbie felt ready to burst into tears, and he put his hand over his eyes. Suddenly, Big Eddie left his seat and walked to the stage. He stood next to Robbie and put his arm around him.
Redheaded Robbie knows a Christmas story. It's about a boy who thought that Christmas meant one thing, getting presents. Then a little angel with red hair visited that boy. The angel told him that Christmas is a time for giving to people who don't have much. After the angel left, the boy asked his parents to give some of his presents to the kids at the homeless shelter. That's Redheaded Robbie's Christmas story.
Cool Katie left her seat. She stood next to Robbie and held his hand.
Redheaded Robbie knows a Christmas story of a girl who thought all about being cool. Then a little angel with red hair visited that girl. The angel told her that Christmas is a time for being nice to someone new, maybe someone who was shy. After the angel left, the girl visited a shy girl and played with her. That's Redheaded Robbie's Christmas story.
The assembly stood and clapped. They didn't stop until Mrs. Wallace stood next to Robbie and asked for quiet. She wiped away a tear and said, "Thank you, Robbie, for all your wonderful Christmas stories. Let each person here follow Robbie's advice. Give before you take, show kindness to someone new, forgive a person who has hurt you." Mrs. Wallace looked at Robbie. "Did I forget to say anything?"
Flurry, flick, Mr. Wall.